Can Donald Trump unilaterally ban South Africa from attending the 2026 G20 summit to be held in Miami, Florida? The short answer is no, because the G20 is an informal member body where all members, including South Africa, is an equal partner. What the United States can do, and Donald Trump can do, is that he could refuse to issue visas for South African representatives, which then effectively bars them from entering into the country to participate in meetings. But these meetings can take place anywhere. But there has been now international response from world leaders, particularly after what have been described as a successful G20 summit in Johannesburg at the weekend. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, expressing his regret that the US government firstly did not attend the G20 summit here in Johannesburg, but then also believes the US is unnecessarily giving influence, particularly in an increasingly important region. Remember what the Finnish president says. Alexander Stubbs says that the global shift in power is moving eastwards and it's moving southwards. What are other countries doing? I've seen plenty of missions to South Africa, including the French mission, saying congratulations to South Africa, successful G20 summit. We look forward to seeing you next year. That's going against what Donald Trump is saying, again perpetuating the rubbish, the nonsense. I'm tired of calling it fake news. It's just absolute, insert the most appropriate word there, of a supposed white genocide. Mitchell Plitnick is a foreign policy analyst based in Maryland in the US. Good morning, Mitchell. Really appreciate your time. And firstly, happy Thanksgiving for yesterday. Is it still yesterday? Is it still yesterday where you are?
It's just after midnight, so Thanksgiving just ended. But thank you anyway. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Your thoughts again on Donald? I don't know what's gotten into him when you have 80% of countries that represent 80% of the world's population essentially turning to Donald Trump, looking at him, squinting the eyes and saying, what rubbish are you talking about? Why would you want to ban South Africa from attending the G20 next year in Miami?
Yeah, it's embarrassing for anyone, I think, who's an American. And I think that's probably true for any American that's really looking just across the political spectrum. And in the end, it's a tantrum. It really is just him throwing a tantrum. I do not believe he's going to actually withhold visas from the South African delegation. I believe he will, make a gesture of how he's doing this to be nice to his friends and allies or whatever. I don't think it's actually going to happen, but I do think it reflects a serious hostility to South Africa in particular that Trump has held really since his first term and is intensifying now, although frankly there really isn't a huge audience for it here, even among Trump's own constituents. It's really not a big issue for anybody here.
But there have been certain pieces of legislation sponsored by mostly Republican Congress people, but there have been also some bipartisan concern about the changing relationship between the US and South Africa. Is this simply the relationship reflecting the relationship between South Africa and the US, or is it the shifting position of the United States losing maybe that hegemony of the world's only superpower?
Yeah, I think there is a part of that. I think there is a part that the United States is trying to figure out how to stop this momentum that you referred to in your introduction, that power is moving to the east and to the south. That has been going on for a long time. There really isn't anything we can do about it, no matter how much we like to rattle our saber. I don't necessarily consider it a bad thing. Even for the United States, I think in the long run, it'll be good for everyone that power shifts away from us. We have done very badly with it, both for the world and for ourselves. But I do think that obviously, we're a global hegemon, and people are scared to lose that. People who have power are always afraid to lose it, and I think we're seeing that. That being said, I don't think there's a lot of people who believe there's really an anti-white genocide going on in South Africa. I do think that there is a strong strain among the American right that looks at South Africa and says it was able, for all the problems that South Africa still deals with in the post-apartheid era, it was able to throw off the apartheid system. It was able to overthrow that, and really, the American right is trying its best to reinstitute that on a global level. Not in South Africa per se, but across the world and here in the United States. Not specifically apartheid, but a more repressive government where democratic rights are not there for everyone, but are there for, in varying degrees for a select few. In many ways, the model is Israel, where all Israeli citizens have certain democratic rights, but they're more democratic for some than others if you're Jewish or not Jewish. And I think that the American right likes that model, at least the American right that Donald Trump is leading. So there is something real under there. But again, what they're, this stuff about white jazz, and nobody here, even on the right, is buying into that. And so I don't expect that is going to get a lot of traction. And I don't expect that this attempt to bar South Africa from the G20 will either, even though I think Trump is genuinely angry that they did not obey him when he said, well, if we're not going to be there, you, South Africa, who has the host country, sets the agenda, should make sure that no statement is issued without the United States. And of course, South Africa said, well, you decided not to come. We're going to do business as usual. And I think Trump is having a tantrum over the fact that they didn't listen to him.
I particularly enjoyed the way in South Africa's official response, essentially saying, I'll read it verbatim. South Africa respects the sovereignty of all countries and will never insult or demean another country or its standing and worthiness in the community of nations. Essentially saying, you will not find us seeking to your level or behaving like children, Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're looking at, isn't it? We are looking at an American president who behaves himself like a child, but therefore causes the entire country to be behaving like a child.
I'm sorry for insulting. I'm sorry for insulting children, Mitchell, because
indeed.
Firstly, I wish Donald Trump a very long and healthy life so that he can face the consequences of his various actions. But many are asking, is Donald Trump still around towards the end of 2026? Essentially a lame duck president in the off-year elections. You have a Epstein documents that are about to be released. You have a midterm elections next year, November. And I don't like talking about people's cognitive abilities, but very much seemingly that man is not all here, Mitchell. What's your assessment as a political follower and as an American?
Unfortunately, I'm a bit pessimistic about this because it's true he's not all there. He wasn't all there in his first term either. He's not much. He hasn't degraded much since then, and yet he was able to get reelected. And that speaks, frankly, a lot more to the opposition here than the weakness of the Democratic Party than it does to any particular skill on Trump's part, although Trump does know his audience, and he's very good at playing to it, and he's very good at being a showman, which can attract a certain amount of votes. That being said, there is a clear danger to the Republicans in the midterms, which is one of the reasons I think we're seeing is such a huge concerted effort by the Republicans to change House districts so that seats will be safer for Republicans in the midterms, or new seats will come up that favor Republicans. They're succeeding because the Supreme Court in the end is the arbiter of that, and this Supreme Court is a radical activist right-wing Supreme Court. So I have been arguing for quite some time that what we're going to see with Trump is the loss of our democracy, and that is how Republicans will maintain power. I think it's a mistake to look at American politics and think that the system is going to function in 2026 and certainly in 2028 the way it has before, as bad as that already was. Yeah. So, I think there's a real danger that even those democratic structures, as threadbare as they may may be, are not going to be functioning. So I'm not at all comfortable with the idea that Trump's going to be gone in a couple of years, or that his spirit, shall we say, shall be gone.
Yeah, your pessimism is noted, but it's just, I think, how the world, I think the majority of the world, South Africa included, does not want to see the crumbling of American democracy. It forms an incredibly important role in the world. The only thing that South Africa wants the US, and particularly Donald Trump, to acknowledge that the world is and has changed, in where there are more voices, there are more places, more centers of growing power, trade, and younger populations. And that's seemingly that the current U.S. administration doesn't want to acknowledge that. But Mitchell Plitnick, really appreciate your time. He's the president of ReThinking Foreign Policy, based in Maryland in the U.S. Thanks so much for joining us.